Star Wars.
That's right. Guys, don't go away. Stay tuned. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Vinny Eastwood. And the topic at hand, of course, tonight is the New Zealand Christchurch earthquake and how it may have some similarities to the new Madrid fault. All that and more when Freedom Link Radio returns.
Are you still paying your credit cards and so-called bank loans thinking that you owe the money? Do you feel like it's your moral obligation but can't see an end in sight? Well, what if I told you that in truth, you don't owe a single penny, and that the banks know this and hope you don't find out? Here's where we come in. Free2Prosper.com specializes in a profound debt repudiation method which challenges the validity of your so-called debts, morally frees you from the burdens, and protects your property. Our system is often superior to settlement, bankruptcy, or consolidation, which often leave you in a worse situation. If you feel the moral obligation to take care of yourself and your family, then I urge you to consider taking action right now. The economy will not wait. If you want to know more so you can prosper through the economic collapse, all while staying honorable and true to yourself, then call 877-417-8393. That's 877-417-8393. Or visit Free2Prosper.com right now.
Hey, it's me, Shepard, the host of the Intel Hub. Check out my live show every Sunday at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. You can check it out from my website, theintelhubradio.com.
Join me, Joe Joseph, John King, and A.C. Griffith, Thursdays and Sunday evenings at 8 p.m. Eastern for Freedom Link Radio on the Intel Hub News Network.
A very wealthy U.S. citizen is predicting that in 2011, we will witness the most important day in America in more than 50 years. He says it will change everything about our lives. The way you shop, travel, invest, educate your children, and even how you take care of your health and family. Now this man has made some outrageous predictions over the years, but the crazy part is he's usually right. You see, he predicted the collapse of GM, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and America's biggest mall owner, General Growth Properties, a few years ago. In fact, Baronis called his work a dire prophecy. Now, this has nothing to do with the stock market, but it could have a huge impact on almost every aspect of your life. And recently, he created a video which you can watch online for free, detailing his biggest and most important prediction yet. And it's a real eye-opener. I can't stress this enough. You should at least watch this free video online today. He explains everything you need to know, including simple steps you can take to protect yourself. You can find the video at www.endofamerica8.com. Although this video may be offensive to some audiences, it's worth checking out. Again, that's www.endofamerica8.com. Watch this free video at www.endofamerica8.com. You are listening to the Intel Hub News Network, crushing the New World Order piece by piece.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Freedom Link Radio. The website, www.thefreedomlinkradio.com. For this hour, we're joined by Vinny Eastwood of The Vinny Eastwood Show, and you can find him and his website, www.thevinnyEastwoodshow.com. And we're discussing the Christchurch earthquake. And right before the break, we were asking about motive. What could possibly be the motive to do that? Now, let me just throw this out at you guys, and I'd like to get your feedback on this before we go to the phones. let's just take it like a war game scenario. How about we try it like that? What better place to do it than sunny, tropical, remote New Zealand? Somewhere where they can simulate this type of trauma to an area, but on a smaller scale, In this way, they can exercise, what happens to the people? How do they react? How do security forces react? How is the supply chain affected? How is all this stuff done? They get to see it, but kind of on a test tube level. This isn't the first time that a dry run's occurred for something like this. If you guys remember, the World Trade Center, the first attack was not 2001, 9/11. It actually was 10 years to the day prior to that, or it was 1993, that it was actually bombed from the basement. And it was, oops, that didn't work. Oh, well, you know what, back to the drawing board. But they learned a lot. Today, in Hampton Roads, Virginia, the naval station and the bases around operated in Operation Solid Curtain, which was a security drill aimed at testing the ability of security to respond to an attack. People do this, they test it, because they want to see what the reaction will be. They want to see what's going to happen. Can the infrastructure handle something like that? Or whatever else remains to be seen for whatever motive they have. But that's just one way and one reason why they could be doing that. What do you think, Riff?
Don't think so, Joe. I think it was a shot across the bow to get somebody's attention and leave a message. That's what I believe. It looks like that. It feels like that. It smells like that. If it walks like a duck, and I think it does, it would serve no other purpose. I don't think they would do that, destroy a town and kill people for a military exercise. Certainly not the New Zealand authorities or the Australians or the Americans. They just wouldn't do it, especially with their people in the area. They wouldn't do that. Things could have gone wrong and taken out their own people. They just wouldn't do that.
Let me ask you this.
They sent a message.
Let me ask you this, Vinny. Is the government evacuating people from the area down there?
No, they're not evacuating people, but people are leaving of their own accord, and people throughout the country with spare bedrooms, particularly in rural areas just outside the Christchurch zone, have opened up their farmhouses and things of that nature. Emergency call centres are being set up, and they fielded 10,000 calls in their first night of operation, with people looking for missing loved ones and trying to ascertain information. The infrastructure has failed massively. Approximately 40% of the city is still without power, and approximately 80% are still without running water. And they're going through assessment scenarios right now to try and get this. Now, we tried to come up with a hypothesis, or at least a working hypothesis, for what the reasons would be. And my somewhat fabulous producer, Mitch Santel, has given me an idea here. We've got a thing in this country called the the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Zone sort of thing, and we're not allowed to have any nuclear-powered ships here, aren't we? Right? Now, the U.S. has pledged support to come and support New Zealand in this time of crisis. Now, if you have a pretext, then you can use that pretext. Like Rahm Emanuel said, you can't waste any crisis. You've got an opportunity there to just basically snowball everything to the advantage of whomever is trying to snowball it, right? So what we've got here, in my opinion, is a power grab scenario, a piece of legislation that's been trying to be passed through the New Zealand Parliament for quite some time, and every single time it goes before a reading of Parliament, they put it back in the box. It's like, oh, it's too scary, the public doesn't want that. It's called the Search and Surveillance Bill. It makes the Patriot Act look like a tame little kitty cat.
Is that right?
I'm kid you not. Now, under this particular circumstance, the military, the police, and non-military and public officials and things of that nature are coming down to Christchurch en masse okay? And they are going into people's houses to see whether or not they're okay. You know, these are the things that you would accept would be perfectly reasonable during a disaster, right? But in my opinion, it could conceivably be somewhat of a slippery slope for getting these kind of new search and surveillance powers that the government has been thirsting for, like a blood-ravening, hungry vampire for quite some time. And the public support for this has been absolutely abysmal. So perhaps there's a possibility that this may be used as a justification for that. Conversely, on the other side of the fence, we have the need, and I say this operatively, the need for international support. We have support from pouring in from all over the world, not least of all from the US. And conceivably, and this is one of the things that John Key, our Prime Minister, was talking about at this Trans-Pacific Partnership meeting, was the possibility of revoking our nuclear-free status, which is a policy that approximately 80% of New Zealanders still support. And under such a crisis, would it not then be justifiable in the mind of the public to, let's say, relinquish that treaty for a short period of time to allow US ships into our soil to help the poor people of Christchurch? That's a theory on my part, but it may be the case.
Yeah, it's very doable. I mean, you think about it, and that's how the powers that be get their way. They kind of nibble away at your freedoms. They nibble away at everything until you actually come to grips with what's going on. You're like, holy smokes, man, what happened? And all you live in a Gestapo type of society. Let's go to the phones. My first caller tonight is none other than the incredible Bob Tuskin. Bob, how you doing, buddy?
I thought you were going to say you got the first caller is the Incredible Hulk.
Close, sir. Close.
I am enjoying this report, and I'm glad Vinny is joining you tonight. I think this is a fascinating topic. And no matter which theory you take on this, we do all understand, of course, that they use these things and exploit them in the media and this sort of thing. So regardless of, whether or not this happened on purpose or what the deal is, we do know that they exploit it. So
absolutely.
I think that's important to take in mind. Also, on top of that, who knows what's really going on these days with earth changes and that sort of thing? What's going on in the world that we're living in? These sorts of earth changes might be a big part of it, and if people in the government are aware of these earth changes and don't act upon it, that's just as complicit in my mind,
right.
And that's
you're
bad.
Absolutely right, Bob. Let me interrupt you for 1 second. There's a YouTube channel, folks, that if you guys don't subscribe to it or know about it, the name of the YouTube channel is Astrotometry, and Astrotometry. That channel takes a look at the solar activity, the forces exerted on the planet, and this guy's actually been fairly accurate in predicting earthquakes and giving warning, well, I think based on these criteria, that the possibility exists that you can have an earthquake here during this time span. And he's been fairly accurate in doing that, and you're absolutely right, Bob. It's most certainly something to consider that they know much more than they're telling us. I mean, it's not the first time the government's lied to us or kept stuff from it, is it?
Incidentally, this is also the time of the year, the time when New Zealand is passing around its census.
Is that right?
That's right. The coincidences just keep piling up.
So, I mean, there's so much that you can actually take a look at. I mean, there's too much here to have it just be a coincidence. There's too much planning and forethought that went into this for it to actually be a coincidence. And that's the point of this show. So if there is a motive, if there is intent, if there is pre-thought or thought that went into this, then it's our duty and responsibility as vanguards of the truth, no matter where you are in the United States, in New Zealand, in Europe, it doesn't matter where you are, we have to find out what is going on and try and put a stop to it by at least informing people of the truth. Now, they may not listen. Griff said it himself. In 11 years, he's had one person listen to him and actually do something about it. In 11 years. But
that's right.
but you're fighting for that individual, you know, and that's the whole purpose of this. Go ahead, Bob. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry. I'm long-winded.
All right, and I'm enjoying the show, and I'm going to let you go. But the final thought here, you know, of course, I want to give a plug to Scott from the Believers Underground, who's on Friday nights on this same network, the Intel Hub News Network, and he has a lot of interesting insights. And they recognize his talk